Okay, so let's get started. Once again, thank you for joining AppSheet's partner updates for August 2018. This is a monthly cadence that we have with all of the AppSheet partners and people that are interested in becoming an AppSheet partner. Okay, so little tongue twister because I don't speak fast enough. There's two topics that we want to cover today. One is feature updates, right? Stuff that we just recently released. We want to make sure that you are aware of those features, and we want to answer any questions you have about implementing those features in your AppSheet apps. And the second topic is future features. I think that sounds fine. Okay, future features, stuff that we're about to release, and we'll walk you through where we are announcing the stuff that we're working on and some of the things that we're working on that is not yet posted in some of those general announcements. So I'll be talking a little bit about the future as well. So again, I'd love to hear your feedback, and if you have any questions about the implementation of any of those features, let me know. I'll try to do some demos in some of those features, and some will not necessarily get a demo at this point. Okay, this is going to be a list. So I think I have about 10 things, maybe a little bit more than that I'm going to share. So bear with me. I'll try to walk through them as quick as possible, but feel free to ask questions on each topic as we move along. So the first feature update that I want to make sure that it's all, that you are aware of is that we now have support for Microsoft Word documents as templates for your workflow rules when you want to send emails and when you want to pretty much send any kind of document that you want to use a template. You can now use Microsoft Word for those templates. In the past, it was only Google Docs was the only platform supported for the templates, and we just introduced Microsoft Word. It works the same way as before. The file does have to live in one of our supported data sources, any data source that can really take a file. So that would be Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, Office 365, Microsoft OneDrive, those platforms that actually take files. So you wouldn't be able to put a Microsoft Word document and put it on Smartsheet because Smartsheet is not really a file system. You'd still need to add a data source that can take the Microsoft Word file. But the good news is that you can now use those Microsoft Word files if you don't want to add a Google Docs data source just to put templates in it. This is very useful for all of our customers that are in the OneDrive and the Office 365 world, that they don't want to add a Gmail account just to put a template in it. So pretty much what's happening is that it works, it works as usual. Sorry guys, I'm having some issues in my conversation. Let me see if this is, it seems like something crashed, but I want to make sure that it didn't. Is everybody still hearing me okay? Okay, and is video also going okay? There was like a bit of a crash in my computer. I don't know if it continued to record my Microsoft Word announcement. I'm going to assume that video is also okay. All right, no, I'm not hearing any responses, and so I don't know if my audio, my video is good. The video stop at Microsoft Word support. Okay, so video is there. Okay, so it seems like it's working. There was some weird crash here. Sorry about that. So going back, so we support Microsoft Word. Just use it as a template, like the same way you would use it for Google Docs. Just use a Microsoft Word file. It's the same. So if you go to help.appsheet.com or appsheet.com/support, you'll find a lot of templates and guides to show you how to create those templates on your own. Just make sure that Word file is going to be in a data source that can take files, right? Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, Office 365, or OneDrive. Okay, so that's supported. Please test it out and let us know how it goes. Now, the next item that we started to support, this is very important for customers that are in Google Suite implementations, and they have enabled Google Team Drives. So Google has a part of their offering for Google Drive. They have the ability to create shared team drives. and we were not supporting that feature before, meaning we were not supporting files that were stored in a team drive, but now we've started to support that as well. So if that Google user has access to a team drive and to a file in that team drive, they could use it for using that as a data source for their application. All right, so that's enabled. You can test it out. There's some implications on how this feature is being implemented. So you may see some refinements both in the feature itself, how it's used, and also the types of plans that have access to this type of subscription as well. Of feature as well. So for anybody who's working with a client that has Google Drive implementation and they happen to have team drives, they can use that as shared data sources also for their users. All right, this one you may be familiar with, and I really want to make sure that you guys have more exposure to it, because it's a very powerful tool for partners to bring more value to the AppSheet apps that they're creating with their users. And it's all about the integration that we have with Zapier and our web API. Now, I want to focus a little bit more on the Zapier integration. I don't know if it's Zapier or Zapier. I think it's Zapier. Zap. Yeah, you do a zap, you do a zape. So Zapier integration. I want to spend a few more minutes on the Zapier integration this time around, just to give you some ideas of what you can do with the Zapier integration. I'm actually going to try and add a Zapier integration to one of my demo accounts, so you can see how it's done and then how it operates, and then kind of get your ideas of the things that you can do. We're very interested in getting more people to try the integration. There's no cost associated with the Zapier integration at this point, apart from being in the right subscription plan on AppSheet. But on the Zapier side, there's no cost. You can always upgrade your Zapier connection to get more power out of Zapier. But just to get started, there is no really cost associated to it. So I want to show you how it's done, and I'm actually going to show you how to trigger an action from Zapier to an AppSheet app. So you're actually forcing an action into an AppSheet application, which I think is kind of a cool thing that you can do now on AppSheet. Now, so we expect Zapier to be out of beta soon, and that's the Zapier integration directly. There's actually, let me see if I can have this in my. Let me see if this is, yeah. If you want to install install the Zapier and AppSheet integration in your Zapier account, again, there's no cost to do that. I'm going to post in the chat window of this call the link, right? So you can use that link to go and install your your Zapier integration with AppSheet, so you can do multiple things. Now, the basic list of things that you can do on Zapier with the Zapier AppSheet integration onto AppSheet apps is that you can add rows, you can delete rows, you can update a record, or you can invoke an action, right? Those are like the key main things that you can do on AppSheet apps. That means that you can automate a lot of things going into from Zapier into your AppSheet applications. For example, for the update a record option, if you have another system, let's say an invoicing system like QuickBooks, or something like Salesforce, or some payment mechanism, you can use that payment mechanism connected to Zapier to send an update to a record in an AppSheet app. So a value is updated to, let's say, with the invoice number or with the payment approval number, right, or some sort of confirmation number inside of the record of the AppSheet application. So you can do those things coming out of external services into the AppSheet application. You can also add new rows. So a lot of people have this idea of, hey, if I create an item inside of an AppSheet app, how can I have, through a workflow rule, go and create rows in other tables, in other AppSheet applications? So you could technically do that on with Zapier too. We'll eventually introduce a feature where you can do it natively on AppSheet, but for now you can say, hey, I'm going to push some data from my AppSheet app to Zapier, and then Zapier is going to go and write a new row into another AppSheet application, into another table directly, with the implications of the different kind of triggering mechanisms that may happen, right? If I add a row and that triggers a workflow on its own, that means that there's a potential next step that could happen as well. So you can add rows, delete rows, update records, and invoke an action to any AppSheet app that you enable to take incoming calls from outside services. Now, I wonder if there's anybody in the community, in the call, that has tried Zapier already. And if not, I do want to spend a couple of minutes showing you how it's done. See a couple of hand raisers, but I don't see anybody confirming that they have used the Zapier integration. So I think I want to show you how it's done. I want to show you the Zapier integration, and then I want to just show you how it's set up. And then I'm going to use, I have Manny says he has done it. All right, Manny, that's awesome. So this one is going to be kind of a refresher for you. For the rest of the people in the call, this is going to be, I think, useful information to show you how to get it done. All right. So I'm actually just going to start from almost scratch on the Zapier side of things, on an account, and show you how it's done. So let me, I think my account is here. Okay. So what are the ingredients for setting up everything that you need on Zapier integration and AppSheet? Well, first you need of course, you need an AppSheet account, and you need some apps, right, on that account. And you'll also need a Zapier account. You can create a Zapier account for free. You can then upgrade your subscription to whatever you want it to be, based on your needs, of course. Then you also need to enable your AppSheet account to allow for incoming calls from outside services. And then you also need to enable an application to be able to take those calls. So there are two layers of let's say, permissions that you have to enable on your apps. Now, I already created an Zapier account, right, for this demo thing account that I have, Bricklane Holdings. So I have thing, and I have a little placeholder here. It's called image placeholder. It's a Zap that I started to create. And my goal with this Zap is that I have an app where people get to take pictures, but if they forget to take pictures, or they decide not to take pictures on the app when they're making a quick inspection, I want to put up an image placeholder. So it's not just blank, but there's just some image there. So I'll show you the app in a moment. But that's my goal. I want some robot in the cloud to find those empty values in a column and say, okay, you know what, this is empty. Let me just inject a little image here. So the image looks nice and there's like not a lot of gaps, right? So that's my goal. And I started to create that here in my Zapier account. You'll notice that there is no AppSheet information right now in this case. So that's set up this way. All right. So once again, the ingredients for making this work is you need an AppSheet account, you need your Zapier account. In order to accept incoming requests or push information from the external service, you'll want to go to your AppSheet account directly, navigate to integrations, okay? And then in integrations, you'll find the channels in tab. You'll want to enable, or you need to enable, the channels in tab to take information from Zapier. So right now, the only inbound channel we have available is Zapier. The way to do it is by just clicking on Add Inbound Channel, select on Zapier, give it a name, and there's an access key to it, right? You can modify that access key. We give you a GUID that is going to be pretty secure because it's a very long string, right? But you can change this to whatever your needs are. This key is going to be necessary for implementing the integration on the Zapier side of things. So you have a name, so you know what it is. You can give it whatever name, and then you'll have a key. You can make a complex key, or you can make a simple key, right? So this is for my demos account, so it's fine. You guys are seeing it, okay? All right, so it's created. So it's available now. I can go now and connect my Zapier to the AppSheet account, right? And the way to do that, the way that I recommend you do this is by actually just creating the workflow that you need to happen, and then on Zapier, just finish the Zap itself, to do the action. So I'm going to do this for the action. So now let's move into the application itself. I have an app called Tank Inventory. The app Tank Inventory app is fairly simple. I add tanks, right? Quick inspection if they pass or not. And then for every tank, I can do inspections on injection points, on places where water comes into the tank itself. Okay. It happens that my inspectors sometimes, when they're doing the inspection, right, and they add the tank and whatever, they forget to take a picture of the tank. But I do want my app to have at least a placeholder image, so I can see the ones that don't have pictures, or at least make my app more user friendly. So when I do that, I just when I hit save, you'll notice that everything that I create has a blank image right now. Only one has the image. So a way of solving this problem is by just creating an action that just injects the string of the image that you want to put as a placeholder when this is blank, right? So when this is blank, then just inject that value right after the fact, of course. So what I did was, well, I just went and created an action to put a placeholder image. And the rule is very basic. If the picture field is blank, I want you to inject or insert this URL that has the placeholder image that I want, right? So that's the string that I want to be inserted in when that action runs. I actually set to display this action prominently. So if I go into any record like this one, you'll see that there is no image. But if I click on that action, the image appears. So the value of that URL is going to be inserted in the image, and therefore it can be displayed in my application. Okay. So that's what my action does. I just have an action that just puts the value of an URL inside of an image. So that's it. Now, I don't want to be doing this manually, right? I don't want to go into an app and just click on placeholder image and then add the placeholder image for every row. I want something that automatically does that for me when that information is not provided by the user, right? So the way I want to do this is by asking AppSheet to please write it in, to write that value in, to write the action if it's available. Okay, so I have the action, that's fine. Now I need something that triggers Zapier to listen to any update or any add that has happened to my application. So to do that, I created a workflow that says, look, whenever there's a new tank, okay, and the tank passes the inspection, I just use that as an additional filter, but I mean, it doesn't matter in this case. They pass the inspection, please send the webhook to Zapier, right? And many of you may be familiar with this, but anyways, the way I actually get this URL from Zapier is that Zapier is going to provide it for me when I create the account. Now, the way to do this is very simple. So now I have something that says, look, send something to Zapier, and just use all of the default values. You'll see that I didn't do any changes here. I just gave AppSheet the Zapier URL where Zapier is going to be listening in for any changes in my app. So I just send this to Zapier via workflow, webhook, and then that URL. And then on the other side, I start to create a Zap that collects that information. And that's what started to happen here. And just to give you context on how you do it on Zapier, you just click on make a new Zap, then you get to choose what is the trigger. And the trigger in this case is a catch hook. A catch hook is going to allow me to listen from Zapier, from the Zapier side of things, for any changes that are happening on a specific URL. So I call it a catch hook, press on continue. And Zapier is going to, this option here to pick off a child key is optional, so I just ignore it. And then Zapier is going to give me an URL that I can use and paste into my application. Okay, so that URL happens when you start to create your hook, right? When you want to catch, you get the URL. Because I already did it, it's not visible anymore, but I can make it visible as well when you're being created. So that URL that you get is what you'll end up using to start the process. So in this case, okay, my AppSheet app is sending stuff to this Zap called image placeholder. And now I want to add a step. And now this is the part where you add Zapier that you add AppSheet to Zapier. If you already clicked on that and the URL to install Zapier, that means that the AppSheet integration is already available to you. That means that when you add a step, you can now search for AppSheet. Because it's still by invite only, you need to use the link that I shared with you. That's going to be available also in the video to install it, so it's available. Once it's installed, you can search for it, click on it, and this is the process for you to add something. The first thing that AppSheet is going to ask is, what action are you going to do? What are you going to do after we receive this hook? So I do know that I want to invoke an action. I want to invoke the action that inserts the URL. So I click on it. I do save and continue. And then, because I haven't installed AppSheet in full, like at least my AppSheet account in full, I need to connect an account first. And this is important. If I click on connect an account, I'll have two options. It's going to ask me for my account ID, and it's going to ask me for the account access key. And these two data points are going to be available in your AppSheet account. They are your account ID, which is this one. This number in the top of when you go to my account is available in the top. Okay. And let me find that screen again. Put that number in, and then the access key, right? Which is available in your account as well. And that is that key that you had before. Okay. And then you paste it, and you're going to say yes, continue. If you have any issues doing that step, just let us know. Send a note to support@appsheet.com. But it should happen. What you just saw is what should happen, right? It should be added, and then when you go back to Zapier, you're going to see that as an option. You'll verify that is your account connected to that Zapier account, because the name is going to be the one you provided, right? So now I do have my AppSheet account connected to the AppSheet integration in Zapier. So that part is done. Now I'm going to do the actual next step, which is, hey, what do we want to happen, right? What's going to happen after we receive this hook, right? And in this case, I actually just want to go back into the same application and invoke that action of injecting the placeholder value, right? The image placeholder. So first I need to choose an application. To choose the application, Zapier is going to find whichever applications are available for me to use. And check it out. It says, hey, we didn't find any applications in your account. And the reason is that for every application that you have, you can enable incoming integrations or not. Okay? So that's very useful, because you may not want to have all of your applications available when you want to do incoming integrations. So before I can select an application, I will have to go back to my app, then click on Manage, click on Integrations, and enable incoming integrations. And that's just clicking on Enable, and then save it. Now this application that is reloading is taking incoming integrations. You don't need to worry about the app ID or the access key directly here. You just need to enable it, so Zapier can read it back in. So if I go back to Zapier and I check on applications, and I check again, right? So I'm going to reload to see if there's anything new. I should be seeing the application, and here it is, tank inventory. Now I grab the application. Now Zapier is navigating the different elements of my application. So for example, you say, okay, which table do you want me to run that action on? And I should have the inspections table, and I should have an injection points table. And we know that it's really on the inspections table that I want to insert that new image, right? So I'm going to do inspections, right? For people working in different locales, you have some locale options here, language, localization options, time zone options, right? So those are the options there. But then you'll notice, because we said invoke action, there is one extra field here called action, and it's required because I want to invoke an action. And in this case, I'm going to check which actions I have available to run. And the one I have is the placeholder image, right? That's the one I created that inserts that URL. So I'll select that. I select my action. Then after selecting the action, I need to go and make sure that I can point at the key value of my table. And that's also coming from the webhook, right? So there's this catch hook here that says, hey, this is the information I have from the catch hook, right? From the webhook. Which value do you want to use? Well, I happen to have an ID, right? It's called ID. data ID, right? That's the ID of my table. So I'm going to say, hey, find that row, the one with this ID, and update it. All right. After you do that and you hit save, you'll have a chance to test it, right? And by testing is just send a test. This is going to send this test information back to the application. Sometimes it may fail based on certain conditions, but in general, if everything is set up, you should see a success message happening. If the success happened, that means that the action was actually executed, and then you should see a change in your application. So it seems that the SAP is working, that everything that was meant to happen happened. So now I can say finish, and I can choose to turn my SAP on. And that would make it so that on a periodic basis or instantly, if that SAP is allowed to run instantly, you're going to get the update happen in your application. So let's test it out. Let's actually try to get one done. So I have my tank inventory, right? I'm going to create a new row, and I'm going to see if after I create the row and I wait a few seconds, if I get the image inserted on it. So let's create one. Let's call it the partner demo. I'm going to skip the image because the idea is that it gets pre-filled with that placeholder image. I'm going to say, yes, you actually passed, right? And if I say that and I hit save, ideally, this is going to shoot a workflow rule that after a few seconds is going to come back and is going to update my data here, okay, for the last one that I did. So if I hit sync, I don't know if enough time has passed, but if I hit sync, I should be seeing the new value. And there it is. There's the new image that was inserted by Zapier into my data. So this is a very simple scenario with the placeholder, but you can envision other things that you can have Zapier do on your behalf, especially when you are invoking actions. That's a very powerful thing that you could do, especially the action that is run an action on multiple rows, right? And that's going to allow you to do multiple updates from the back end directly onto your application. So it's a very powerful feature. So I wonder if there's any questions or comments. Seems like a few of you like the feature implementation. So I'd love to get your feedback or any questions of how this feature is implemented so we can make it even better, right? But right now it's a very powerful tool for you to go and bring a lot more automation to your applications. This is very useful for you as a partner, by the way, because then you can configure more complex, more robust applications using this type of solution, using integrations. Quick question from Caleb. Can Zapier trigger a notification without a sync in AppSheet? So yes, it could trigger it, right? So when you say without a sync, I'm guessing there's a change happening locally on the device, and or there's a change happening somewhere. It could be an external service, right? Let's say that your ERP actually can send also webhooks out, you know, and Zapier can catch that webhook, and you want that catch to actually push some notification to the user on the other side. If the user has push notifications enabled in their application and their application is installed, so we actually know the device, you could trigger a change inside of the AppSheet application that would trigger the push notification itself. So you could technically do that because it's kind of shooting almost like a workflow rule. So you can achieve that as well. Follow-up question from Manny. Is it mandatory to add Zapier channel in AppSheet? So if you want to use Zapier too for the incoming integrations, yes, it is mandatory. You need to add the Zapier channel to be able to do that. You need to be on a pro subscription or above to use that kind of integration. From Grant, if a data change is executed on a record, will it trigger the app formulas to recalculate? So anything that is meant to, like pretty much the server, Caleb, is going, Grant, the server is going to operate as a user. So if there were any formulas that needed to run, you know, any dependencies that needed to happen, when you do it via the web API, they are going to run, right? you can test multiple scenarios on that one. We cannot claim that we have figured out every possible scenario because we don't know how many dependencies you have in your applications. But if it's the basic formulas that happen inside of a row, yes, they should be recalculated. All right. As a quick tip, you can always come back to your Zapier account to see which zaps are running, if there are any errors, if there's anything to pay attention to. You should start seeing the either success or failure messages directly on your Zapier account. Obviously, you could be notified directly from the AppSheet side of things as well when something happens, but it's good to also have a good idea of what happens here. So once again, you can review Zapier to get your like a quick review or a quick summary of the zaps that you've been running. You can run zaps on multiple applications, connecting multiple services as well. Um, you can create zaps that are triggered from AppSheet apps to Zapier to another AppSheet app or to the same AppSheet app like we just did, but you can also do other services that connect to Zapier that then push changes on AppSheet applications as well. Right, so my recommendation is please get started. The link that I just shared, you can use that link to use it. If you get to watch this video after we're out of beta and you don't need an invite, the AppSheet Zapier integration will be available for you in the Zapier account. So once you create the account, you can create the action. The final tip here is that AppSheet right now, the integration is at the action level, it's not at the trigger level. So it's the integration right now is to do changes after something else is triggering the change. So whatever that trigger is, it could be from another AppSheet app or from another service, that needs to be enabled first. And then after that is defined, you can go and say, okay, my action is going to be AppSheet and I want to go and change an application. So I really hope this was helpful. I know it took me a few minutes to do the walkthrough, but I think it's a very important feature that you really want to explore. Couple of follow-up questions. Why do a data change through AppSheet versus triggering form the Google Sheet and back? Well, you may have dependencies in your AppSheet application that you also want to trigger. Let's say workflow rules, other types of notifications that you want to happen. And if you do the change on just the Google Sheet, you're not going to take the advantage of the other services that the AppSheet app is doing for you. So one of the reasons of doing this kind of work directly on the AppSheet application is that you'll benefit from the other elements of your app configuration when you do the change. So in other words, Zapier is sending the change to AppSheet, which in turn is going to send you some update to the Google Sheet. The other reason is you may want to do this because you are not working on a spreadsheet, right? You're working on a database or you're working on another system, I mean, pretty much another database, or let's say Salesforce, where you want to do something also fancier and use this type of integration to produce more robustness. So at the spreadsheet level, you can write some lines back using Zapier directly into the spreadsheet, but you may want to take advantage of the other benefits of the application itself. There is a question from Peter saying, is this partner webinar recorded so I can try this again for myself? The short answer is yes. The longer answer, as Grant has pointed out at the beginning of this webinar, is that it's my bad that I haven't uploaded the webinar, so I'll make it available for you guys today. I promise that. Follow up from Manny, is there a JSON object in the push into AppSheet? Will it be read by integration webhooks? So the short answer, Manny, is yes. You can actually, let's say, bypass Zapier to do some of your integrations work. You need a little bit more detailed knowledge of how those APIs work and the kind of information that you're able to send or not. So you could do this without Zapier. It just takes more effort and a lot more attention to detail. If you go to help.appsheet.com, you will find a very extensive guide on how to implement your integrations. So you could technically do it without having to connect to a Zapier account. All right, thank you for your questions. They're great. I think we are in need to move into new topics very quickly. This was going to be like the big chunk of the conversation, but I want to make sure that I cover the rest of the topics. So Well, actually, this is going to have a quick demo as well. So another feature update, which is actually a future feature that is about to be released very, very soon, is the search view. First note is the name may change. It may not be called a search view. We'll decide that very soon, or it may just be available as search view, and then we'll change the name. In summary, this is a special view type that uses natural language processing to help your application users find data inside of the application. So for many of you who already use the search option inside of AppSheet apps, that is just making a plain text search for a specific value inside of the table that is available in that view. So if you search for something, you put any string, and if the string matches, then it'll be found. That's it. There is not a lot of space for structured search, but even worse, I would say, there's not a lot of space for unstructured search. You don't know exactly what you're searching for. You want to kind of ask AppSheet to help you figure it out. So we're trying to, and we're building, as part of our efforts around artificial intelligence and natural language processing, methods for people and end users to search data inside of the application that is available to them, that without having to write a very structured query. So we're actually going to the next step before we do also a structured search option. There's a question from Manny saying, is this search view available only in system view definitions? I don't know what you mean by system view definitions, Manny, but I'm going to go do a quick walkthrough of the feature. So maybe that's going to answer your question. So let me switch back to my screen, and actually I'm going to switch to another window altogether. Now this is an application called Repair Dispatch. I've actually used this in the past for other demos. It's a simple application where you have a bunch of clients, you have your team members, and you can create jobs for your team members. So you're just matching clients with jobs with team members. It's a simple dispatching application. Okay, it's also available in our demos account if you want to get a copy of this. What I added into this application is the option to do a search option. Okay, and that search is using the new search view. Now this is how it's going to be available to you soon, or for the ones that are under the rollout of the feature may be available already. It's just a view. That means that if you go to UX, you can create a new view. And when you create a new view, you'll have a new option called search, right? I'm going to call it fancy search and select it, all right? You'll notice that there are not many options there because this is all predefined as a natural language option for your app. I'm actually going to make that fancy search. Let me see. I'm going to make that fancy search right in the center. Actually, right on the left, and I'm going to replace my jobs, and I'm going to downgrade it to the menu. So the search becomes available when we can. So let me find that fancy search view again. Here it is. Let's make it on the left, and then save. So as you see, it operates as a regular view. Question from Peter saying, is there a future integration with Google Assistant? So the way we're doing natural language processing, it's more about understanding the schema and the data inside of your application, and then process like the most reasonable queries that you would make into the application. There may be a chance in the future to integrate with one of those assistants, but at least what we're using this is more for the processing of natural language. So we make a query in kind of behind the scenes so we can get the results that are more reasonable for you. And I'll do a demo in a second. So now I have the fancy search here, okay? Let me actually go into a full screen view of the app. Let me show you what it is right now. So there's fancy search, right? So as I mentioned before, my application has jobs, has employees, has customers, and then has a list of issues. So if going back to here, if I go to jobs, right? If I see my list of jobs and I see, hey, what are the jobs, right, that I have? So let me go and lets me find for every customer. I can say, hey, this customer here, these are the jobs, right? And every job seems to have an employee, right? So maybe I can go and find all of the employees where Forrester is assigned. So you could define a specific view with a specific slice for just Forrester, but then that means that you will have to create lots of slices based on the user, or get into some complexities. But maybe you can just say Forrester jobs, right? And see if you can find anything where Forrester is the person assigned to the job. And AppSheet is going to give you a translation of what it thought it was, right? It says, hey, can I view a table of jobs where employee equals Forrester Fader, right? Let's try to say a map of Forrester jobs. So in this case, it says, I want to view a map of jobs where customer equals Avenue of the Americas. That's the guess that it made. So that's us getting better at natural language, right? And employee equals Forrester Fader, right? So maybe we can do map of Forrester, right? And this is another way of saying, hey, just the rows where employee equals Forrester Fader as a map, right? Or maybe we can do just a map, right? Right? So then you start seeing how AppSheet starts to try to understand. In this case, not very well, by the way. Just saying, it's just figuring out something about Avenue of the Americas, and that's probably why it's not really finding the points. I guess if I zoom out, it'll eventually show some data point in the somewhere else in the world with that data point itself, right? Um, but it'll start to understand what you're trying to achieve and then produce a result that is meaningful for you. So when you want to do a non-structured search of the data that you have, you're going to get a good result, right? And it has to do not only with showing you the rows, but also displaying the rows in very specific options, right? It could be a table, it could be a gallery view, it could be a map. So we'd really like, as we start kind of showing this feature with more and more people, we'd love to get your feedback so we can improve the mechanisms of how these applications are being created and being processed. Right? Any questions on this? All righty, let's move on. Very quick feature updates. A couple of things that we want to add here and remind you of. So the first one is that we now have a way of customizing the invalid input message. For the people that are not familiar what that means, you now have the option. Let me go to the tank inventory app to show you. For any column where you're capturing data, if you have a valid if condition, right? Let's say in my inspector, there's a valid if condition, you can now write an error message if it's invalid, right? So we used to say by default, hey, this is invalid, right? Let's say that you selected something that is not on the list, or you enter a value that is not valid, right? Well, now you can actually write the message, right? Or you can even, because you can use expressions, you can use something based on user settings, so you can write a message in a different language too. So now you can configure that the error message when something is not valid. There's a couple of follow-up questions from Rafael and Manny on the previous topic on search. Rafael says, is search in Spanish too? So not yet supported in languages outside of English, Rafael. So that's something that we'll eventually want to get to, and we may be able to plug into other systems that do live translation of data that will probably require the user to be connected to be able to get a meaningful result. And Manny says, is image search possible? It's possible. It's not enabled. We could eventually do something like that, right? Like say, search and find an image and so like find more images like X, right? Within the same data collection, right? So we'll have to go and read the images and figure out which ones are similar to the one that you selected. So that's possible to do. It's just not enabled right now. We're still working on kind of just the basic text information. We may want to, before we do something like that, we may want to start doing some character recognition. So if you take a picture of a receipt, just to do your traditional OCR, so you can actually find text within images as well. All right, another quick feature update as the Workday feature update. This is a nice expression that you can start using now. Many of you are creating applications for people that work. Actually, if you look at AppSheet kind of usage metrics, you can clearly see that there's high usage over the weekday, and then on the weekends it goes down, and then back again over the week, and it goes down. It's clearly a work tool. This is mainly used for people to do applications where they use while they work. And then, so it works very simple. You just type workday, open parentheses, put a date. It could be today, but it could be whatever date, comma, the number of dates that you want it to count. And it's just going to count work days, skipping the weekend. Now, for us, work days is Monday to Friday, right? And then Saturday, Sunday is not counted. And it doesn't know holidays yet, right? So there's still some kind of rough edges there on the implementation, but I think it's going to give you a good baseline way of working on this. See if there are any questions. Oh, it's just a follow-up on saying, hey, is there a way of doing some pattern recognition on images? Yeah, I mean, those are all kind of longer-term feature updates for us. We want to get the closest we can on the product side in terms of just doing search on text. All right, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough on upcoming features that we're working on. So we'd love to get your feedback and your comments on those new features. Before I do that, a quick question here. So Grant says, hey, can we define the work days and holidays? So right now it's not defined. It's just assuming a date, a known date, and we know the day of the week of that date. And then we're just going to skip Saturdays and Sundays when we're making the count. So it won't know holidays, and it won't know any other type of different work days that you may have. So you don't get to define it just yet. That might need a different type of integration that actually counts different types of calendars, right? But at this point, it's just a basic math on skipping Saturdays and Sundays. All right, so final round and concepts. I just want to remind you of the 4 big buckets that we work on when we're developing our platform. We work on intuitive app creation. So it's anything where people can create apps and they can create them faster, right? So tools that go inside of the application that allow you to do more things. The second is rich application features. This is where you start thinking on the search view, or how do you work on that workday thing, right? Like features that make the application more powerful, allow you to do more and taking more advantage of the different form factors and capabilities of an app. The other is great application UX, adding new things to the user experience. So we know that most of our applications are used for work, if not all of them are used for work, but we also need to make sure that when people are using the apps, it's an enjoyable experience and a very efficient experience as well. And finally, that the product is enterprise grade, right? So we just support large scale deployments, the security, the availability, the compliance that is required for those applications. Those are the big buckets of work that we do. And we are always doing something in one of those buckets, right? As I mentioned, there's a 5th one where we talk about how we organize our subscriptions and how we commercialize our product, right? But for the purposes of what the platform can deliver, everything is in these 4 buckets. All right. So I'm going to give you kind of a glimpse on stuff that we're working on right now that is coming. Many of the features that we're working on that are public already, you can find them in the AppSheet feature requests app, and that AppSheet feature requests app is available in appsheet.com/feature requests. That is a public application where you can go at any time and then take a look at features that people are asking for. You will see that anything that has a green button is something that we're actively working on. And there's a lot of ways of kind of sorting information. I tend to go and look into votes to see what people are more interested in. So for example, a lot of people want flexibility in the use of the bottom and top left menu buttons, and we're working on it. So you'll see responses from us and comments from us, so you can see what we're working on. So this is a great community tool, so you can get to see what we're up to in some general terms. All right. Let's go back to the presentation. So I recommend that you always go and make your recommendations on the feature requests app, and you vote for features that are kind of aligned to what you're requesting for, so we can see if there's critical mass for some of those features, so we can accelerate their implementation. That doesn't mean that it's going to happen immediately. Some of those features require significant amounts of work versus other features that are simpler to implement. All right, so quick things that we're working on that are not necessarily in that list. The first thing we're working on is how to do edits directly on a table view. So if you have a table view and there's a specific field you want to change, how can we make it easy for you to change it? Right there, without having to open an edit view, without having to open a detailed view with a quick edit, can you do a direct edit of a field inside of a table view? That's one. The other future feature that we're working on is if you have a deck view, right? It's kind of a nice view, and there's a lot of power in it. But what if we wanted to make this little view here that you can slide left or right to do an action, right? Like if I swipe left, delete. If I swipe right, execute another action. That's a nice way of using it on your mobile device. So we're working on that particular update. The other one is drag to sync. So you'll see that we're trying to like decommission that sync button in the bottom right. Instead of being a deliberate sync that way, many of you are already working on background sync mechanisms. What if you can just drag from the top, from the screen, to synchronize your application? This is especially useful for mobile, tablet and phones, not necessarily desktop, but there are other ways to operate on desktop too. So that drag to sync is going to be an interesting one also to see. A couple of questions coming in. Grant question about short, medium, or long term on the slider or on the quick edit on table. They're all in short to medium term. If that's probably the okay. Grant's question is everything that I'm talking about short, medium, or long term? So the short answer is short and medium term. All right. So we're prioritizing some of these things for this calendar year, and we want to front load as many of those as we can. And that's it, actually. That's the end of the features that I wanted to walk you through. There's a couple more that we are not yet ready to talk about, but we will be talking about it in future conversations. So we'd love to get your feedback, your comments. We have about 4 minutes before we go, but if you guys are ready to go, we can finish the webinar early so I can go back and do what I've been promising for the last 3 webinars, which is download the file, upload it on YouTube, and share it with everybody. So any questions at this point? We have one from Rama. Is it possible to put 2 fields in the same column? Rama, the answer is, well, you can concatenate, right? You can merge 2 values into a same column, but you do need 2 fields. Now, if your question is in the UX, if in the UX you sort of want to, let me just show you one form. If what you're saying is, I want the timestamp and the tank ID to be shown kind of in the same row, that's not yet available in our platform. We do 1 question per row, and the reason is this is more optimal for mobile devices than anything else. So you want to have every question in a single row. If you want to merge values, you just use something like that looks like this. I'm just clicking on virtual column, then app formula, just to show you how it works. Concatenate, open parenthesis, then column, whatever the column you have, comma, right? And this is the formula that you would use in Excel, right? And the other column or whatever value you want to add. So let's say column 2, right? So that's how you would do a concatenate. For more advanced people, you can always do something like column 1, right? Sorry, just let's keep column 1 and column 2. And that's it. That's how you actually concatenate 2 values. Also available in Excel. So you're kind of emulating what you do in Excel directly in the formula. And when I just to make sure, when I say column 1 and column 2, I mean whatever the column name of your table is, right? Just choose the names of columns that you actually have in your table. I just don't know what they are. All right. A few more questions. Let's see. Comment from Manny saying, yeah, on the sync update, so we don't see the sync button. Yeah, the idea is to kind of, rationalize that space because it's very powerful, it's very useful, and we have two big like hard-coded buttons there, share and sync. We want to make sure that you take advantage of that real estate in a meaningful way. So the goal is to improve on the interactions so you can reclaim those views in the bottom. Grant says direct edit is baller. I'm going to guess that's good. I don't know what baller is. I'm really bad at kind of the slangy or or idiom style of terms. I think baller sounds like good to me. So let's say yes, it's good. Yeah, I agree that direct edit will be very good. Got it. And question from Rama is, hey, yes, it's in the UX. So Rama, it's not yet available in the UX. My recommendation would be create a virtual column, do the concatenation in the virtual column, and then in the UX, present that column as the result of the concatenation. And that will help you get the result that you want. All right. And I think with a minute to go and I don't see new questions popping in, I think this is the end of our monthly partners call. I appreciate that you joined the conversation. If you have any questions, please feel free to send a note to partners@appsheet.com where we can engage with you. Also, you can also join the Slack channel for partners. If you are not yet a member of the Slack channel for partners, send us a note to partners@appsheet.com. So we can get you in that Slack channel. It's a place where you can also have additional conversations with us. And if not, you can definitely go to the AppSheet community at community.appsheet.com. So thanks so much for joining today and see you in about 4 weeks. Bye-bye.